simply put it, I will try and wrap up my messages in the next 25, 30 minutes, followed by some questions if you may like to ask me. I'll be glad to answer them to the best of my knowledge and experience, precisely. Before we get on to my first slide, I just want you all to take a couple of seconds and just put in the chat box one word, okay, just one word, what creating differentiation means to you. Wait for a couple of seconds and just make it one word. I mean, I don't want a 2, 3, 4, one line, just a word, what it means to you. Yeah, can we have it on the chat box? I can't see messages. Are you all typing? Okay.
Yeah, it is unique.
Yeah.
Stand out, wanted, identity.
Okay, showcasing uniqueness, your brand, tall, interesting concepts. Wanted. Jitesh has 3 words. Okay, stopping at one is not easy. Yeah, novelty, competitive advantage, wow effect. Okay, well, that's nice. Probably another few seconds and then I just start sharing my thoughts to you. Top of the mind recall. Okay, exclusive, full gap, unique. Thank you so much. I trust you can see my slides.
Yes.
Okay, lovely. So thanks a lot for your comments, and we all seem to have the right answers, as we know ourselves to be. This is what it means to you, and it's important because what it means to you is how you see things, and from where we build it, I think is something that we can probably try and brainstorm and have some ideations that could be put across the table today and pick up whatever you think is relevant. So creating differentiation definitely could be a lot of things that you'll have said. Before I come down to my topic, I just thought let me just step down into certain big numbers, which will give us some little context setting into what all is possible. Revenues for the big tech keep increasing. Okay, now the big tech, what I'm talking will come in the next slide. For those who have already guessed it, I think it will be there very quickly on the next slide. The revenues for this big tech has kept increasing across the board. And this is because of a very, very important integral factor of greater technological adoption. That has been the biggest driver for their increased revenues. And what we are talking about, for people who've guessed or not guessed, we are talking of the big tech. I mean, these 5 companies the world over has really, spearheaded the entire business revenues, the entire technological adoption that we keep talking about. And the Apples, the Amazons, the Alphabets, the Google, that is the Microsoft, the Facebook. I'm sure each one of us who's there, a part of this group, or the ones that are using either one or two or all their products on a daily basis. And that's the kind of enablement, that's the kind of differentiation that they have been able to create over the last few years to see some staggering 900 billion as a combined turnover, an amazing 150 billion profits that these people put in together. And I think less said about their market cap, the better, which is something that India might aspire to become in the next 10 years in terms of what kind of a trillion-dollar economy that we would really want to happen. And the way they've really achieved these billions is by capitalizing on their platforms. And very importantly, their growing user bases. This increased growth has come through adoption of software, cloud computing. I mean, who thought that the days of physical servers would be a bygone era? Ad proliferation. Facebook today has 98% of its revenues coming in from advertisements. Same is the case with, I think cloud computing from a very strong online store like Amazon that has now made the AWS as one of the most sought after, let's say, servers on board. So these billions will continue to come because they've been able to smartly have there are differentiations created throughout. And that brings to the question that I want to discuss today with all of you is, why do we need to be different? We all have a desire to create a personal brand. We all have a desire to create a personal differentiation as a leader, as a manager, as a personality. I mean, there is something that we want it to be different. There is a lot of brand image that you want to really make it different. I mean, people who are from the marketing, which is, I think, the dominance streak here. There are a few people from the publication industry that I know who are here. What is it that you want your brand to be different for? What is the company value proposition that you're trying to offer? Every day, every single working hour that you are putting in on a daily basis, you are trying to create a different persona around you, your brand, or your organization. Some of the common things that we are known to is increasing market shares, the return on investment for brands and services. Somebody who's a manager, somebody who's a marketing services head in a company, you want to see how your ROI to your customers, your stakeholders within the organization is looking better. How is a brand, when being positioned rightly, getting that extra prescription or getting even the desired prescription? Extra today could be a very luxurious word, but I think even the desired prescription is what you all aspire to always achieve at all points of time. Retaining share, I think in an increasingly competitive landscape, we do a lot of things to create that differentiation. Today, for a brand manager who's handling a small brand, to retain your space in front of a large brand in the same division can be quite a nightmare. What should you do differently to have that same rep, to have that same manager, to have that same boss look at you for handling a 10 crore portfolio amongst a portfolio that could be there in the company worth 100 crores? Why should you be different? A lot of your services that you bring to the table will be the differentiating factor. The way you analyze data, the way you engage your team members, the way you talk to your people, the way you source data, the way you understand your customer better could be differentiators that will help you to retain that share in an increasingly competitive landscape. Follow the leader. I think this is something that we very, very blindly do. And I think as a very native Indian, all of us have this great philosophy of keep following what the big ones do, keep following what the elders do, keep following what the leaders do. Do you want to break away from that mindset? If yes, what's the differentiation that you want to bring about? What's that kind of charisma? What's that kind of leadership trait that you would want to bring in yourself or your company to not follow the leader, but to set aside a path that will go to the path of success? Changing trends in the ecosystem. I mean, I keep liking this statement a lot over the last few years, because there has been an immense learning when you start looking at beyond your single narrative. Very often the stream of work that I adopt, whether it could be a brand manager, it could be a medical colleague, it could be an entrepreneur. I am very, very limited and narrow-minded to my little system. I don't want to look at the ecosystem. I don't want to see how many times have I started talking and connecting with people beyond. A lot of times there are people like reps and managers in the field who are at ground zero on a daily basis who really know what is to be done. When I've been spending time talking to my colleagues who are in the front line, may not be necessarily in the field, but even in the office setup, there are so much immense learnings that you come up with that you want to have differentiated strategies. You got to keep your flock together. How do you keep your flock together? In today's era, I think we have been sitting for the last 4 months, today comfortably, but for the first 1 month, I think we were very uncomfortable of trying to manage things on a remote manner.
Audio.
Audio is lost.
Yeah, 1 minute. Prashant, just hold the line, Prashant. Yeah. Appa, yellow, appa.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, this is perfect. I think it's gone to a mute. Fine. I
Yeah,
think this is perfect.
yeah.
Just a few seconds, you can just resume.
Okay. So I'm not sure where you heard me last. I was at
No, just a few seconds before back only. Just 2-3 seconds before, that's all.
We heard you till follow the leader. You can start after that.
Again, gone to mute.
Mr. Menon, you are muted.
Kalai, is it going on an auto mute from your end?
No, it is perfectly fine. It is now you're able to hear.
So, so the whole point is about, how do you want to really, change with the changing trends in the ecosystem. These are extremely important indicators if you want to start creating the differentiation. How relevant are you? I was talking to some people about various guidelines that various medical bodies keep bringing about, and that brings a change in the way we promote our brands. That brings a way we try to launch new brands. It's also important to really spot the paper presentations in conferences, because those are the smaller trials that are going to give you the bigger picture in the next 1 to 2 years. How often do we even bother to take an entire assessment of the paper presentations that are going to talk to you about emerging trends? These are indicators that will help you to start having a differentiator strategy as you move ahead. Keeping your flock together. I mean, the whole agenda is you have internal stakeholders, you have external stakeholders. In today's torrid time, you have to really do everything to keep your flock together. How engaged are you? What are the narratives that you follow to really have a leadership style that you would like to be known for? And this is what will really help you to move ahead. How do you manage to stay ahead in this entire so-called often used word, the unprecedented times? Are you really trying to have a short-term approach? Your answer could be yes, but how much can you make that short-term approach become a lot more sustainable, become a lot more creative, become a lot more consistent? Probably would be something that you might want to start thinking through. So these are various positions that we stand at as to the reasons to be different. And I would like you to walk away with the thoughts that what is it that you would like to do different for you as a person, as an individual, as a position that you carry in the industry or your workspace? What is the brand that you're handling? What can you do something differently? Or what could be the company value proposition that we can want to have a differential image? And the best way to do that, I think, is to really answer these blind spots. What are the potential blind spots? From my years of working, interacting with colleagues, learning from mistakes of myself, my teams that have been having a lot of stumbling blocks as we kept moving and chugging along, looking at things around us. I've tried to put down 5 notions that can prevent us from being differentiated, and what those notions are. And it starts with one of the biggest notion of self-awareness. We have a research that tells that 90% of individuals in this world, okay, on a research done by the Harvard, talks about people who think they're self-aware are actually not self-aware. So in this group that we're talking about, 9 out of 10 people, one of them is me included, think I know myself, but the fact is that I do not know myself as much. So the notion of self-awareness is often one of the biggest stumbling blocks for you to create a differentiation in the market, because we operate in a sphere of being aware of what is to be done. The fact could be completely the converse. And that is something that is important for us to really look at it. What's the second notion? The second notion is of customer knowledge. I have spent X number of time, I've spent X number of time in the market, I have been a departmental head for the last number of years, this is the way it goes, this is the way the customers will behave. I think things have changed. Things have changed big time. Things have changed by the week. And I think the COVID scenario probably makes us alarmingly, I think, go to a day-to-day change. So the notion of customer knowledge is something that we might want to question ourselves. Do I know him enough? Do I know what he perceives about me? Do I know what he perceives about my brand? I am telling him that my brand is this. I am telling him that my leadership value proposition is this. I am an extremely articulate leader, but is it how it is being perceived? I am an aggressive and an assertive leader, but is it that it is perceived as being abrasive? I need to really understand what is the customer knowledge all about. How much do I know about the customer? about himself and what are his perceptions about me, because that will also help me with the previous statement that I made is of the notion of being self-aware. Notion of market intelligence. I think this is one point that we have this organizer also being one of the contributors to the market intelligence. They give a lot of data, which really helps us take informed decisions, which takes us take a lot of incisive insights. We need to really look beyond the numbers. Everything in life is not black and white. I keep finding for the grays in between. There are a lot of grays that will help us to really color our images, wear a different lens. So it's not all about knowing how good your prescriptions are progressing, how good your sales are looking on AVAX or on the IMS, or how good is your internal sales record moving. I think there's a lot to do with the behaviors of these numbers that come, and the behaviors generally come from the people who are behind those numbers, the people who promote the numbers, the people who work for you, for your teams. I think try and get intelligence about your market a lot more than what we think we know, because these are blind spots that will stop you from differentiating and will stop you or will encourage you more from only reacting. It will encourage you to react, but it will not encourage you to respond. So if you want to differentiate, you generally tend to respond and not react. Notion of understanding ecosystem. This is quite close to your market intelligence. It's quite close to your customers, but it gives a whole new meaning. It gives a new meaning of you wanting to look beyond your box of operating. I've said this statement before. I will again say this statement. Thinking out of the box is a commonly used statement that all of us keep using to push ourselves to get newer ideations. To think out of the box, it is important to move outside your boxes. Move outside into the offices, move outside into the marketplaces, meet customers within the industry, speak to people outside the industry, understand how these ecosystems are interdependent, understand what works somewhere else might work with a slight modification in your industry. Try and understand what that happens. It also can be perceived to what works in one specialty might have certain implications and certain benefits in another specialty. So let's try and exchange these ideas. Let's try and exchange these experiences to help you overall break this notion of you thinking that you know your ecosystem. The last notion that I think we've often been bonded by is the notion of innovation. I think I'm innovative. I think a small tweak or a jugaad here and there is called innovation. It may not be the case. Copy pasting is not innovation. So when I gave you a little example of knowing from some other industry and putting it to our industry, probably you have learned something, but to adapt it is going to be far more useful rather than just copy pasting. And I think all of you, with your kind of experience that you have on the table, I'm sure have got the gumption to really slice and dice these kind of insights to really see what actually fits you. Just do not do an innovative methodology because somebody else has tried to do it. It may not work for you. That is what I will be coming to my later parts of the slides. So what do we do to migrate from what I would like to call from notions to potions, right? The potions is something what we very well know as the magic potion, the blue bottle that you see at the bottom of the screen. What are the migration methods that we move from notions to potions in our efforts to create a differentiation? The potions of stakeholder feedback. To improve your notion, your myth of self-awareness, start getting more feedback from stakeholders. Start asking your customers, what do they think about you? What do they think about your service? What do they think about your brands? Because if you start doing this, I think it helps you introspect and helps you reposition where you want to do what you want to do. Maybe you don't need to reposition, you just need to stay on course. But please get the stakeholder feedback extremely, extremely critically taken, as that starts forming up the base of your action plan as you start moving ahead. For improving your customer knowledge, have tons and tons of portions of insighting. Know your customer in and out. It is not, we are not in the world of just birthdays and anniversaries. Even that has boomeranged a lot of times. I have known of times when we have called up, when our poor rep has gone and taken the detail from a doctor of his wedding anniversary, and we have had some great typographical error in typing it, and you land up calling him on a wrong day. and unfortunately 5 other companies have done the same mistake, I think you have less of a positive response and more of a negative response coming in from that customer. So customer insighting has gone beyond purely what we talk about, just knowing his anniversaries, his clinics, his birthdays. It's a lot more. Why does he take a decision? Why does he prescribe a company's product? How much do you know him so that he's engaged to you? And engagement comes with deep insights. When you allow people to be engaged, when you are engaged with your people, you get better insights. You get more honest insights. You get more authentic insights. And that will start helping you to start doing what is building up. A lot of companies today are struggling in this era when we are beginning to lock down the release a lot more easier. I think every day we see some of these hot spots across the country either getting into a temporary lockdown, again creating some stumbling blocks. And this is probably going to be the kind of routine that we're going to see in the next 1 or 2 months, or maybe more. How much did you actually spend time in really looking at what are the new sets of customers that you would like to look at? For me, as a brand manager, as a marketeer, start looking or spending 1/3 of your time into the future right away. Because if you have 1/3 of your time devoted in understanding customers better, in understanding marketing campaigns that are working better, marketing campaigns that need to be trashed, spend that quality time. We don't tend to spend 1/3 of the time or 1/3 of the time investing in knowing what kind of insights are needed. We are extremely happy with a small set of customers and an existing set of services that is today being offered. What more is needed? And this can happen to anybody. This can happen to all the people on this group here. You might want to be happy today with a set of customers or a set of services that you're giving, but is this what the company or the let's say customer wants? The answer could be relevant today, but may not be after another few years. So start spending and investing 1/3 of your time very typically in getting the future of what the customer trends are all about, and hence engage more with the customers. Engage in a very undiluted manner, engage in a very uninhibited manner, because that will start helping you to get your pointers, what differentiations are needed. Is the differentiation required in my approach to him? Is the differentiation required as a tactical strategy? Is the differentiation required in really repositioning your company or your brand? Try and adopt to what kind of insighting the customers are going to give you. To know much more about market intelligence, really dive deep into the competitive knowledge. There is so much that competition can give us. There is so much that competition behaves, the way they behave, that we generally tend to take a back seat, or we generally tend to take a comfort level seat or a window seat to try and see that I think I know it all because I live by the moment. I don't live by what I need to know for the future. Understand, why does a local player come and take away the market share in a small headquarter or in a small area or in a small region of yours? Because somebody has done the job better than you. Somebody has been able to be more penetrative in their strategy. Somebody has been more persuasive in really getting the doctor's attention as compared to what you have. So just sitting on a big brand or sitting on a big company does not give you the comfort level today to be sitting on competition that is really going to start eating away your market share step by step. Portions of knowing beyond the industry. And this is where the ecosystem comes in place. Have enough portions. Create a set of people that you will interact on a regular basis. Go into the World Wide Web and see what industries are doing. You might be a leader. Understand leadership traits that are happening now. Understand what are the changes in leadership. It will make an immense impact. It will make an immense differentiation in the way you manage your teams. Understand how customer acquisitions are happening today, how customer retentions are happening today. So just look beyond the industry. The pharmaceutical industry that we represent is highly, let's say, conservative, is highly conventional. We love to do the same things again and again. We believe that doing it better than yesterday is the way forward. The answer is yes, but the answer is yes for now. The answer may not be yes for a longer time. And I think COVID has given us a complete wake-up call in how we've actually moved ahead and expanded. You know, when you look at a lot of informations that come in the news about pharmaceuticals, about non-pharmaceuticals, I think the problems are not too different world over. The problems are not too different industry over. People have spread in the name of differentiation very far and wide, and then they've realized that they're sitting on a wafer-thin margin. They're sitting on a wafer thin profit. It's time to regroup. It's time to reconcile. It's time to reinvent the old wheel. And hence, there are massive layoffs. There are massive cuts in budgets. So let's be proactive right in the beginning and see how this can really help us. The notion of innovation. I was reading a wonderful article by this gentleman, Ronnie Screwvala. I think we all know him as the UTV man. He also has a very, very popular, education technology company that has really come up. And he beautifully puts as the lack of innovation is the lack of education. We are truly making less educated guesses about everybody. Let's be a lot more educated about things around us. I've been extremely excited to see a lot of people, known to me, not known to me, using this lockdown period to really educate themselves, equip themselves up with something that can be really effective. Education never goes to waste. Its relevance will come sometime or the other. So if you want to really innovate, if you really want to innovate your strategies, your actions, your tactics, your brands better, keep getting educated more, whether it's science, whether it is marketing, whether it's communication, whether it is the way to handle customers, keep getting educated a lot more than what you think you know all about. Embrace risks. Innovation does not come with embracing risks. You need to embrace risks. You need to keep trying out. So your trials, your pilots, as I love doing piloting, whenever people have come to me with certain concepts, I would always keep encouraging them, try it out in a smaller audience, see if it works. Not that you need to get either excited or dejected if it doesn't work, but probably it has given you one more chance to improve that communication better or improve that thought process better. So portions of education, embracing risks and trials will pave the way to break down your notion of innovation. You will be a lot more informed in trying to really move this needle a lot more higher up in this. In fact, a lot of boards today, a lot of board of directors today in a lot of organizations across the world are really making, encouraging risk-taking abilities as a board member agenda, which means companies that are investing in innovation need to invest in engagement, need to invest in taking feedback from employees and customers, and need to embrace risks. These companies will start seeing innovation being a culture. It just cannot be, it is not an operational term. I mean, it's more a culture that you set in yourself as a person, as also as, let's say a professional that you are, maybe representing your company about. How do we do this? Agility. The word agility is not about speed. The word agility is about how well you connect the business models and customers. I had a very interesting comment that I heard from one of the CHRO, I think programs that I heard and learned about. CHRO is the Chief Human Resource, official. HRs today have been told that managing performance management systems or managing the human resources in the company is not the way that they're going to build towards agility. Agility is on how HR can connect the company's business model to the customers. And the customer can be internal as well as the customers are external. I think people who work with me in this group here, I think extremely know why every department, why every function in an organization needs to be business centric. The more business centric you are, the more you are going to be value adding to an organization. Because at the end of the day, you are there to get your brand sold. We are sitting here in a pharmaceutical group or a non-pharmaceutical group. Your brand has to be sold. Your customer has to be purchasing it. So every department that works has to strengthen this business model and customer connect. And that's what agility is all about. So agility for you as a marketer, agility for you as a leader, agility for you as an entrepreneur, or agility for you as an advisor is how do you identify these dots that can connect the business model of your company with your customers. Stakeholder centric. This is another thing that I've increasingly started adopting and has been extremely beneficial for us. What are your internal and external stakeholders talking to you? How much are they listening to you? How much are they willing to share and engage with you? Because if they do that, that's how you'll be different. So if you want to create a differentiation, ask the question, do enough customers care about your difference? Or is it your perception? So anything to do with stakeholders, anything to do with an image, anything to do with stakeholder centricity is all about the perception that the stakeholder has about you. Whether it's a doctor about your brand, you are saying that your brand is a trusted brand. Does the doctor feel that? We love to spend times on taglines. We love to change the visual aid copies once in a year in the name of differentiation. I don't think that is necessary. It takes ages to get a brand and a customer, let's say, associated to it. We are not operating in an FMCG company where a mnemonic or a tagline gets advertised every hour in a day, or a few seconds in a day. It is not that way. The customer that you meet today in the field, that is doctors, you probably may not meet him so often. Or the customer that you meet, I mean, for people who are in the non-pharma in this group, may not be the customer you meet every day. So you have limitations in reaching out to your stakeholders. What is the perception that they have of you being different? So when you want to create differentiation, I think it's important for you to understand how your stakeholders think about you and ask those questions. Ask those questions to your stakeholders. This is my communication plank. Do you also feel the same? Because we know the slip that happens between the creation of a strategy and the execution of a strategy. And that brings me to my next point, that you don't need to be necessarily different at all points of time. Life is not always non-linear. Differentiation is not always non-linear. Differentiation can always be linear as well. If you've created something, make it happen. Please make it happen. A single-minded focus on ensuring that differentiation works is by reaching the target audience consistently. And that is the responsibility of the entire chain of people who are making that communication happen. And please pay attention to that last word, let's say consistently. Please do not change strategies by the quarter, by the year. A boss changes, the strategy changes. And that's very, very unfortunate. We've been victims to it, and we also do it unconsciously, probably, because I think the way I do it is the right way. Because that's the notion that I've been carrying all this while. That's a notion I do not know about what is to be done. And hence, please remember, creating differentiation can also be in the kind of finesse in execution that you can bring to the table. Make it happen. That's the job of you as a leader. That's the job of you as an executor. And if you can do that consistently, the differentiation that you thought by sitting and making it on either a blackboard, a whiteboard, or a laptop, or a conference hall, can certainly be percolated down the line. So the three key metrics for me towards what I like, I mean, this is where, Modi stands out often. I mean, you listen to every session of his, he comes up with certain key messages that you take away. That's the differentiation plank that he's always used. That's the kind of communication power that he's always used. So you might ridicule it, you might get impressed with it, you might start a new agenda with it, but he leaves you with a thought that is provoking to really make some action. So I am trying to put across a 3C methodology that you must remember. If you want to create differentiation, these are 3 methodologies that you must keep in front of you. View your differentiation strategies with this lens on. The first and most important, something that I was very happy that Kaleraj did not mention, because Kaleraj spoke about content and let's say communication. I think the first and foremost and most important is context. Where you are presently determines where you go ahead. Please do not mimic others if you do not know what to do. See, context creation, context setting is the beginning of creating a differentiation. And when you set a context, you might even come up with an answer that I don't need to be different. I probably need to just stick to what I've done, or I just need to probably improve something different. So very often we tend to follow the leader mindset blindly. We tend to follow somebody else blindly. The digital era has been an exact humdinger here. Webinars, I mean, I know there was one of the questions that one of the, I think participants had asked during the registration, how can we make webinars different? Please see the context of it. Is it really necessary? Do you really want to jump into the bandwagon? I mean, I think the months of May, I think doctors were bombarded with nothing less than 3 webinar invitations a day. I mean, why is he going to be really focused? And there was a meme that came up where there was a small, post that said that, the doctor tells the nurse that you please manage the patient because I have to attend the webinar. And this is the irony of you doing something that is non-contextual. You have completely missed the brief and you've tried to do something that is needed. So please define your context, define your purpose. What is it that you need to do, and where are you standing today? Is it a budget issue? Is it a capability issue? Is it a delivery issue? Or is it a relevance issue? Set the context right. Probably the next 2 will fall in place automatically. The content. Very, very important. What do you need to convey that will differentiate you? If your context setting has been extremely right, if you've understood the why behind your campaign, behind your brand, behind your leadership trait, if you have understood the why behind, I think you will also then know how to deliver that message. The content is going to be extremely important because at the end of the day, you want to be remembered. Like somebody said, you want to be standing tall, you want to have a wow factor. Why will you be patronized? Why will somebody patronize you? Is because if your purpose and messaging has been at the core, that has to be the the whole significance of the content that you bring into your creative or your differentiation campaign. And finally, and very, very important, is on communication. How will you say this? The ones who are going to take the communication ahead, how prepared are they? How much are they engaged with you? How much do they believe in your purpose? Are they aligned with your thought process as well? Or just because you've been a boss, they have to do it? Probably that has also been quite often. What are the channels you'll adopt? We are talking of the various medias that you will adopt. The digital media or a physical media or the more popular word of a phygital media. What is it? Is it going to be a mix of it? Is it going to be a calibrated response? Is what you will need to check. The frequency. How often should I be doing it? Once a week, once a month, once a day? And I know the kind of difficulties that each one of you have had trying to communicate with your customers for your brand propositions over these last number of months. It's been extremely frustrating. And not for you, it's been more frustrating for the recipient because he doesn't want to be disturbed. Probably the doctors don't want to be disturbed. A customer might be happy with a very, very symbolic, how are you? I hope you're taking care of yourself. Good day. That sometimes can create a better differentiation than bombarding him with messages that is unsolicited. So measure your responses through defined metrics. When you communicate something, find out how responses come. You communicate brands through visual aids. You communicate brands through webinars. You can measure the responses by the attendance. You can measure the responses by prescriptions that come. You as a leader is communicating something to your team. You can measure the responses by the actions that follow after that. Are they really setting up a true action that you can really take away? Is it really intending your context setting? Is it really helping? Which means if your communication is not going through, if you've thought your context well, revisit your content. Probably you need to alter your content. You need to reposition the way you communicate. So please look at these methodologies in ensuring that you're creating differentiation strategy, either as a person or as a brand or as a company, is always kept in mind. Just a couple of non-pharma to give you some perspective. I thought this was a very wonderful way of putting it. On the right-hand side, you have the mission, Duracell was to reaffirm themselves as a market leader across certain continents while creating differentiation for their brand and challenging the codes of the category that they wish to stand out. So they've got three categories here on the screen. They've got one which is a normal quality guarantee. They've got one which is a plus. They've got one which is an ultra. Look at the way that they've kept all the three present and how they've tried to differentiate right from images to the colors to some stand-in environment or some stand-in store category, advertisements. You'll find many of these. I think you'll find many of these. I mean, I do not know how many of you managed to catch a glimpse of the cover page of the Times of India today. An amazing ad of the brand from Kia Motors. Everything about the vehicle was there. About the Seltos. But at the end, they have an entire new value proposition. Looking at the context of today's tough economic conditions, people are not willing to spend. They are willing to postpone their purchase. They say that you buy now and start paying 3 months later. There is an entire relook on the EMI. There's an entire relook on giving 60% of the vehicle value after, let's say, 5 years of the life. So there are some amazing contextual, creative differences that they've tried to bring about in the whole thing. Now, what will a customer who wants to buy a SUV do? He will try and compare this with another likely candidate of a Creta or something else in that category. So these are how differentiations have helped in terms of context, the content, and how they're trying to communicate. A quick look at pharma this time. I think we are all a part of this, and some of them who are non-pharma also have this connectivity. I think we have, I've used the word digital onslaught because I think we have been mercilessly, spending some fantastic value times. I mean, your entire Wi-Fi connections have gone for a toss. The load has been high. The month of April, you saw the telecom companies struggling to give you, good quality Wi-Fi. Today, all this is happening, not only to your internal team members, there has been an incessive reach. External customers, we spoke about webinars. There are a lot that's happening with regards to connectivity during this time. Logistics, e-pharmacies. I mean, they were treated a disdain a few months ago. They suddenly have become the heroes of the block. They suddenly don't see anything because they are today surviving and they are today supplying, despite the challenges of not having the labor or the manpower to push it. E-commerce. I mean, I think when did we start enjoying, I think, a lot of things delivered at the doorstep and you not walk into your Kirana store. I think these logistics have changed. Food apps, Zomatos that were used to, because the hotels went into an issue, they started using Zomato to start supplying something else. The Swiggy guys were supplying pharmacies. See, I think the, let's say your, e-communication, that is your Ubers, your Olas were used by companies to start supplying drugs. And this is how material movements have very, very smartly started, having in the logistics space. Booking apps for the trade. I mean, if you look at the blatant ads that came in from the AVAX, some very, very interesting, order booking systems for the stockists, for the chemists, leave no chance for the guy to look at something else. There is always an opportunity found in these kind of tough, things. Nutraceuticals, I was one of the, I think people who would always keep saying, why do you want to distract your strategy from nutraceutical? You had a company that was very focused on something. And, I remember, I mean, being in Sun, I'm sure a lot of people in Sun would be there, early days, Sun, would really ask about us wanting to launch some nutraceuticals in a very strong respiratory market. And I would say, why distract? I'm not able to sell my core products well, but I think today they had the last laugh. They have walked their way to the banks because in days where if you're not hoarding, a chronic medication, you're probably hoarding a nutraceutical. And today it has boosted that immunity of companies greatly. So wellness brands have suddenly become a great fab. And that's what, you'll have to look. So nutraceuticals have played a very smart entry point in companies that have invested long ago in this kind of a scenario. I think something that we have really liked, repurposed drugs. Drugs used for something else gets used for something else. The world of experimentation continues. As we read the papers every second day, you will find something in the protocol, off the protocol. So keep your fingers and ears, closed in terms of what could be the ultimate outcome of this. But yes, repurposed drugs have made a huge, huge impact in this, pandemic era. Work from home, blurred lines. I don't know when I have to work. I do not know when I have to go and do some home chores. But yes, the productivity has increased. I have not heard of a single person known to us who say that I'm working less. You're working much more. Despite this, unfortunately, there have been a lot of leaderships who haven't been able to bite the bullet here. They have been extremely critical of how this productivity is being seen with a lot of suspect, and that's a little unfortunate. Hygiene and safety levels. From self-usage of sanitizers and face masks, I think you've seen some pharma companies even getting into launching these. So while the traditional sales and products have not moved, but I think some companies have smartly taken a short-term approach to fill in the gap and launch sanitizers and face masks and even probably, PPE kits. Leadership styles. I think I really, want to focus on this because, all of us are leaders in our own right. Some of you are, heading teams, some of you are heading, you are also an influencer. I mean, you may be a product manager here in the group, but you are influencing an entire set of hundreds of sales guys. What is the leadership style that you want to use? Initially, it went from being directive because you didn't know what to do. So there was a lot of directions that was coming in. But what works a lot is how inclusive are you? How engaged are you? Are you involving your people to walk the journey along with you? Because they will be the ones who will create that differentiation for you. It is not a distant type of leadership. Social distancing is a norm, but in leadership, if you use the distance approach, then I think you are in for some kind of a lack of engagement by your employees or by your teams, and that will also be perceived by the customers, because a lack of engaged customer or a lack of engaged stakeholder internal will always have that representation in the external field. A few slides to end. This is the future of doctor visits. I do not know. There is this company that's very active today in various channels in the LinkedIn. I just happen to see these ads getting popped up. Meet medical representative online. I'm not sure of what the success will be for this. This is certainly a practice done globally. In India, there are companies who are adopting it. Might work with a lot of super specialists who might be happy to meet medical representatives online. But again, how trained are your people on this? How much would you want to really get the capabilities moving up? What is the content that you can deliver in these online, conversations with your doctors? It could be a whole new era of, the way we start seeing the doctors next. COVID scenario differentiation. There have been a lot of short terms. I think 1 month back when we saw some companies, brands done by some local guys as a very smart move on the face mask, we probably had a lot of positive, negative, neutral comments. But today, it's become a branding exercise. It's a short-term one. Probably you wear mask for the next 6 months or 1 year. But yes, companies have found that branding on the face mask may be becoming the most face-hitting branding space that you can ever get. Today's newspaper talks about how insurers have launched a Corona Kavach with a premium that is starting low. These are differentiations that you need to look at, because these are differentiations that go beyond the day-to-day routine. And this is for a short time, but yes, these are differentiations that you might want to look at. On the right-hand side, a little non-industry specific, Starbucks to let you drive in through your favorite brew. I mean, generally, out of, let's say, 100, let's say, such of these quick service restaurants in India, not more than 20 of them had a drive-in facility. And today, each of them is working on creating at least 80% of their quick service restaurants have a drive-in facility. So look how the world is changing. And this, what we see here in Starbucks or in quick service restaurants, is going to be there for a long term, because it just probably is going to keep in mind a lot of social distancing norms for a long way to come. It will come at incremental cost, but yes, I think it comes with a lot more incremental safety, let's say, measures as well. So the whole aspect for us to create differentiation, what I've tried to bring to you, we all want to be different. We want to be different as a person, as a leader, as a brand manager, as maybe an entrepreneur, as let's say somebody who's running a company. We all want to be different, and I think that's where we are going to be looking at. So impact, impressions, and experiences of a differentiated approach will last a lifetime. Please re-look at the context, create the content, and communicate accordingly. Because if you do these three in a synergistic manner, you will create that impact. You will create that lasting impression with your customer, which will make him experience the product. And thereby, if he gets a differentiated experience, you're going to have something that's going to be sustainable. So do not look at anything that's going to be short term. If it is, be extremely clear that the context that you've chosen is not for a long term. You can't have a short term strategy and have a long term impact. It's going to be extremely, let's say, counterproductive. So let's really understand what's the kind of context that you're going to set. My best observation: if you aren't making mistakes differentiating, you probably aren't trying too hard enough. So make your mistakes. Differentiation does not come with the first thing. I heard that statement very beautifully well. Our education system has trained us how to succeed, but it has not taught us how to fail. And that's where we need to, we start failing when we are more into the workspace. We start failing, we try to experiment and differentiate. Keep failing, keep learning, because that's the way you will make much lesser mistakes. So thank you so much for your time. And I would like to wrap up my conversation with just one video. I do not know if you've seen this, but it's just a 90-second video. It's an old ad that came in 12 years ago, something that was a creative difference and something that has today become a mandate. Let's probably spend the next 90 seconds watching that. Thank you so much. I think the whole attempt was to try and stir your minds and not have a very bucketed thought process of creating differentiation is not only for brands, it's for everything that you have. And I think that's where I'm really trying to look at. Wish you all the best. And I'm going to open for questions. If you feel that these slides are useful for you to rerun, please write a mail to me and I'll be glad to share it with you. This is only for sharing, and if that can help you, I'm sure I'll be glad to really work on that. So thank you so much, and over to Kaliraj.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Prashant. I think it's a very wonderful session and really excited on our session. One of the couple of very few points I just want to make it as a summarization. As you rightly said, the brand should actually make a kind of some uniqueness. I think you quoted a couple of personalities like our PM, Mr. Modi, or many personalities, who were made. Actually, if you really see the icons in the history, right from the days, everyone who are really able to remember us is because of certain specific things what they made us. That's what we call it as a uniqueness, and they make the presence feel to everybody. I think that is one of the very important point. I think this is one we can actually take it even our part of our learnings. And second, very interesting thing what I just want to see is how you have to prepare yourself before making a differentiation. First of all, you have to really prepare yourself the way what you're talking about, to understand the feedback from the stakeholders. So many times what happened, we decide what we think is the right, but may not be right actually. So we need a kind of introspection, especially to get a stakeholders feedback, and we need to get the customer insight and understand what is the kind of engagement they have been feeling about. Third very important point is we should know the competitive knowledge, and then we should also know beyond industry. So many time, the one thing I always find with the pharma industry is, when the moment we go into the deep drive into the product management, making, visual aid making and all, then we always forget to understand the other industry, even very relative industry like advertising or FMCG or many other industry. Even we never see even a OTC also. So, that is, we never think of going beyond the industry where the lot of good things is able to take it. For example, I even recall a couple of ad which is talking about the automobile industry. There are a lot of, the kind of ad which actually giving a really stunning experience to us. Then education, embracing risk, trials, these are all things we need to really understand. Then we talk about important 3C, which has been well appreciated, is the context, content, communication. I think three are people are very like it very much. Say that it is well said. I think this is what we have a kind of very brief summary on that. Now we will go into the question and answer session. Before that, I'm just putting the kind of feedback into the chat box right now. We can keep throwing the questions to one after another. Prashant, now I'll be just got some couple of question which from this meeting, then also which has been during the time of registration. So I'll keep posting it, even though we have been answered many of the things, but it can be a kind of very specific focus. One is, Prashant, are you able to see the slide? I'm just reading.
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
No, I can see the slide. Please go.
Yeah. Many pharma companies are trying to tech-based startups and entering into the digital era. How do you see the business model of pharma changing and creating differentiation in line with the digital era? How actually they are able to cope up or sync well?
Well, let's just understand what are the pharma companies trying to, look at the digital tech startups. I mean, these are very typically, I believe, if I have to understand, are these companies, are we referring to the Cipla purchase of a company or a Cipla investment in a company, or are we looking at companies? There are two parts. One is Cipla, companies like Cipla who have invested some stake into the digital tech companies, and the second is there are a lot of companies who are begun to tie up with a lot of this digital access, remote access, let's say, programs with the doctors, because If you look at a lot of the hospital chains, very typically Apollo, Medanta, Max, all these hospital chains very quickly ramped up their entire 24/7 reach to the doctors and to the patients, because they didn't want to lose the patient. So whatever could be managed and treated is always going to be there. Telemedicine is nothing new in India. I mean, that's been there for the last 2 decades. But yes, it has suddenly started getting a lot of impact, purely because it has become a little more important to manage your indications or your diseases while not having the facility to meet your doctors. So it will create a change. But again, look at the context where you stand. If you are one of those large companies, if you're one of those large brands where you want to create that differentiation, it makes a lot of sense. Because I don't think this is going to be picked up by anybody who's got limited resources in hand. Probably you may not need to invest in something like that, but this will be the future. I can make an educated guess today as to how much will this last. It can be your guess versus my guess. I'm sure we all want to go back to the normalcy. We all want to go back to a physical world where we are able to meet people, embrace people, spend time with people, let the doctor touch you to feel your pulse and not feel the pulse to a digital gadget. So this will happen. When this will happen, I don't think I have an answer at the moment on this. So it will create an impact. It will create an impact in terms of the digital tech startups that is coming in with the pharma, and the companies who have got a deeper pocket ideally will go in for this.
Yeah, second interesting question is how the local players are managing. I know that at least 4 of them, those who have completely wrapped up their operation. Is it reality that will the benefits to large pharma companies to one or others means?
Yeah, it would. I mean, I think the writing is on the wall. Very typically, the big gets bigger in these type of cases because the big has got a bigger sustainability ability. Okay, I mean, if you look at the last report that I think AVAX showed, of the top companies and the top 50 brands and the top 50 companies have taken market shares from the remaining. There is almost a close to 4 to 5% market share reduction in the below 50 companies versus the top. So all that tells you is that it has certainly made the large brands bigger. Now, I don't want to jump to this. Let's say to the summary that I think the small brands have moved out. No, we are only talking about sales data. We are only talking about the ability to stock. And as we say, the bigger brands have an ability to push as compared to the smaller brands. So smaller companies getting wrapped up because of very, very little purpose behind the way they manage business, I don't think is a very unknown scenario. It is there, and probably it might increase in the given scenario in the coming months as well.
Yeah, Prashant, very contradict with the question number 2. The third question is it's interesting in other way. There are some regional players have been able to adapt to the new normal. Are there large companies are able to looking at these companies to understand the differentiation and creating to survive?
Yes, why not? I mean, look at the agility between a small animal and an elephant. Okay, a small animal is able to move a lot more faster. Small teams, small brands, quick responses. Decision making plays a very strong role here. How much do you commit yourself to really making this change is there? And I think the advantage that smaller players have or smaller regional companies have is to very quickly understand the context of where they stand and not be carried away by large brands and large companies, because large brands and large companies will have their own, let's say, narratives. You have a different narrative. You are able to reach out to people faster. You may have 200, 300 people on the board. You may have 500 customers writing for you. It's quick for you to reach out. And in these times of COVID, the essence is protect your existing customers. Don't lose it. Forget about the newer customers, because you never did that in the past. You have no reason to do it today. And that's why I said in one of my communications earlier, spend 1/3 of your business, your 1/3 of your investment, 1/3 of your research in identifying newer avenues of business. What could be the newer ways to reach out to customers, or the newer tools to reach out to customers, or who could be the new customers? If you have not done it, then this is not the time to do it. Just refrain from doing it today, and probably once things start normalizing, pick it up again. So smaller companies, I think, have sometimes shown you the smarter ways to manage things. And I know that this is happening, and large companies will watch, but trust me, a lot of large companies only watch because they have their prefixed notions that they would love to adopt. And that's where you might see a change, because the head office things are one, and the field is in another tangent, because the field says, here I can't meet 5 doctors and you tell me to do digital programs. So there's a lot of gap between the reality that one needs to bridge at all points of time.
Yeah, to add, Prashant, very interestingly, if you see this phenomena, it is very contradict to the what is happening to the retail business. If you see retail industry, these all big companies like Big Bazaar, those all big people revenues have been shared to the smaller grocery shops. Now people are going towards more retail or nearby local players rather than the broader, bigger name people. So I think this is what exactly happened in the contradict with the pharma vis-a-vis the retail. Let's move on to the question number, next questions. I think there are questions mostly been answered. However, I think Prashant, if you want to highlight any point, you can do it. What are the differentiators in the new normal?
I think if you actually try and look at what I was trying to convey and the message, I'm sure this question you need to now relook at how you were trying to do. The differentiator is the new normal is to be adaptable. You need to be adaptable. You need to be agile to what is required. Don't sit in that glass chamber of yours thinking that the world looks as secure as it is inside your chamber. Try and see what's happening outside. The differentiator for everyone sitting in this group here can be very different. So there cannot be a single formula, and hence go back to that 3C. Try and see what is the context. Do you need a differentiator? You might need to ask that question also. Would you rather focus on your existing clients and improving the connect with them? How often have you spoken to them? I remember in the months of April when we started telling people to connect with doctors, we struggled to connect with even our existing prescribers because they were not used to it. So forget the new customers at all. We are today struggling to get hold of the existing. So let's make sure that the differentiators that you are thinking, look at with that lens of context, content, and communication, and you will have your answers on this.
Yeah, Prashant, as you rightly said, today we see the scenario, even the recent IMS or AWACS data says that bigger brands are gaining more. In this backdrop, what is the status for the smaller brand with a limited source? How they can actually, cope up, or they can, do the differentiation?
Well, I think you need to really define your market well. You need to know your customer well. So this will make me go back to what I spoke about. What are the notions you have about your market? What are the notions you have about your customer? If your customer is the same as the other guy's customer, then what is different that he's going to look into you to prescribe? And please, I think if smaller companies, local companies can do a good job, no reason why a decent company cannot do a better job. It all tells you is that the person right there in the front has been able to identify a soft corner of the doctor, which has made him right for him. It could be as simple as his effort. It could be as simple as his integrity to the job. That's made the difference for him. May not be your tagline. So there could be a lot of reasons how a small product can create the differentiation in a cluttered market. So each one of you have a market to capture. Each one of the doctor has a prescription share to give you. Try and see what is your share in that prescription game. Is it a 10% share? Is it a 5% share? Is it a 1% share? And very often, we are like bees. We love to catch that honeycomb which has all the honey in it. And there are multiple avenues and opportunities. How often do field managers spend time identifying newer customers? So when I said that the job of a head office or anybody in this group here should spend 1/3 of your time spending researching on not only knowing your customers better, but identifying newer avenues, you will start getting your answers on how I can differentiate my product. Probably there's a different segment and category that I can do. For people who've been here as a part of the Ranbaxy team, let me tell you that, levocetirizine, Kalay, you were there as a person. A brand like levocetirizine, Teixine was always the number 2, number 3. We became number 1 with just one key specialty focus. Now, levocetirizine is a market which can be written by anybody. It can be written by an ENT, by a chest physician, by a physician, by a general practitioner, by a dermatologist. But we became number 1 by having a sheer focus on just one single specialty, and that made the change. So it all depends on what's been the context that you want to drive your product about. So choose a pivot that you would like to rally around and give it the whole concerted effort, and you will certainly emerge to have something that's better.
And very exciting question is Me Too products with no difference. So how to tackle?
Stay simple in your communication and be ruthless in your execution. Do not complicate. Do not complicate. I mean, if you try to create an unwanted differentiation, it will fall flat on your face.
Yeah, I think
let's be simplistic in the approach and let's be ruthless in the execution.
Yeah, I think you are right, Prashant. I just recalled the days when we're talking about Maxim. Maxim was a division in Ranbaxy, which was actually a kind of generic type of thing, which they have all Me Too products, are very, generic, very generic products. But it was one of the highest target achieving BUs every month after month. The very simple, the answer is, the success is, as you rightly said, be simple. I think that is what exact things which is you are also seconded. Now we'll move on to the next question. How to best create product information in cluttered market?
Again, I think if you know your product well, if you know your market well, try and differentiate what is it that you can offer, right? I mean, if there's a particular pattern of visits that you want to give to a customer today, all this will start relooking. I mean, a lot of the norms. I mean, I've been seeing some comments on the chat box about what is it going to be for the new normal. A lot of these will have to be revisited. I mean, you'll have to spend time engaging and having conversations with your own people. A lot of times, I think if you spend time conversing and hearing your people, you will get answers. The point is, how often do we listen to our colleagues? How often do we listen to their pain points? Because their pain points will give you creative differences. We are extremely poor listeners. I mean, I think because every time there is something there in my mind that I want to just vomit. There is very little that I want to absorb. So hence, people will give you what you want to hear. And that is not the truth. So it's important to be a patient listener. And when you are a patient listener, trust me, a lot of resolutions happen. It is not as difficult. Maybe you don't have a solution, but the guy gets out of that room or gets out of that phone call knowing very well that the guy opposite, whether he's a boss or a colleague or a leader, has heard him. He's far more engaged and excited to go and start looking at things afresh, and he will come up with answers. So don't block that channel, especially in this new normal. Please listen to your colleagues well. They know the market a little better than what you know, especially if you are not in the marketplace every day. I don't think even one of us sitting here in this group has had the ability to go into the market and work because of the restrictions on travel. So you are only reliant on the people who are there in the field. So while you flog them for not meeting more than 5 customers a day, ask 20 questions on what happened to those 5 customers on that day. Rather than going by a witch hunt on numbers, I think let's go on a witch hunt on the quality of those 5 calls. It will give you your differentiation tactics and tools.
Great. Then another area, kind of different question is how differentiation can bring changes in work culture and performance.
Big time. Differentiation in work culture and performance. I think this is purely a leadership issue. All people who are leading here, I mean, whether you're departmental heads, whether you are sales heads, your marketing heads, I think it is extremely important on what kind of culture you want to set. Culture is a lot more driven by the leadership. And each one of you is a leader to your team. Imbibe a culture which is going to be productive, imbibe a culture that is going to be inclusive, imbibe a culture that is going to be extremely engaging. And if you can do that, why performance will not come? Performance has to come because the guy that you're paying attention to, you know where to help him. You know exactly what his pain points are. Because we often, like I put a comment, leadership cannot be distance and definitely not in this hour of the day. It has to be inclusive. It has to be engaging. And if you can do that, you will exactly know where to help him. Very often people are distant because of the only reason is they don't know if the guy asks him, boss, isme karna kya hai mujhe? And he then chickens out and he says, nahi yaar, tujhe bas karna hai. And you see this. I mean, I'm sure a sales guy or anybody else in this group here would have heard this comment so very often. Just go and do it. I will, but how? You may not have an answer. And that's where you need to go back to your notions, those 5 notions that is a detrimental to your creating differentiations.
Okay. Now, there are 2-3 things. One is we are going to ask a very general out of context question, which has been asked in the registration. Before that, I request all participants, please click the link and share your feedback. Even otherwise also, I will send you the link So you can do that. There will be two important announcements there. Please, I request you to stay back with us for some more time. Now we'll ask a very interesting question, which have been, talked about, discussed on us. In brand management team's profile going to get vanished or shall go down due to COVID-19? This is a kind of fear factor, which I think we have touched a little bit on in the last, our fifth webinar also. However, I think Prashant, can you give some light on this?
Yeah, I'll give you my perspective on this. I mean, let's look at this in this way. Brand management will not go down. You cannot afford to get such a critical function of brand management vanished in the Indian pharma market. Whether a team will go down or no, it will be foolhardy for a company to decide and think if they can manage. I think brand activities and effectiveness without a product manager, I don't know how much they will survive. I know for a fact that a lot of my teams in brand management have been burning the midnight oil, have been available at various points of time, and have been really trying to connect, because you expect them to know the answers. You expect him to know technology. You expect him to reach out to know what customers are thinking. But what I would want the brand managers to do is very, very typically is go back to the notions and the portions. And if you can do that, stay relevant. Because if you are relevant, I think a company is going to find you always valuable to the core and nothing else.
I think really great. Before we move to the announcement, I think I want to take a formal thanks to Prashant. Thank you very much for the people. I think there are so many people who have given a comment that the session was wonderful and really exciting. Very interestingly, what happened was, before I'm announcing your name for the last session, one of the regular participants called me up. He was telling that you are conducting so many webinars on strategy. Is it because your name is starting with the ST? So then I told him, no, it's not like that. Because strategy people, it has all happened to be that. Then he told me that, okay, why don't do on product management, PM. So probably that's why I brought Prashant Man, PM. Okay, so I think you really identified and made it and recognized well for product management. I still, know my days with you, how you're strong in brand management and creating the differentiation. As you rightly said, Texine or any brand, I think the way we have worked on a couple of brands, this all you proved it right. Great. I think thanks on behalf of Scalivers and all participants, behalf of yours. I take an opportunity to thank Mr. Prashant for his valuable time and the really good insight. We assure you that we'll bring you a much more insightful session in the coming days. And there are two important announcements we are going to make. One is we are talking about the next session. We are going to talk about the branding to the best, a live case study by Mr. Sankardas PV. He is CEO of Curatio Healthcare. This is what, the company which actually from a small niche, we just come out in a very bigger way. Last 3-4 years, if you really see such a small niche, they have really come out well. And this is kind of answer to how a small brand or your small company also can do well. And Mr. Sankardas actually is, I know him personally actually. He was vice president in the Dr. Reddy's, and you actually made a couple of portfolios very strong. What is the interesting point is we are going to do a session on 15th August. That is, 15th August, we are going to have a very special session. We are going to have a chair speaker as Mr. Hari Ram Krishnan, and we are going to bring two big legends, Mr. Vivek Hathangadi, who had taken a last session, a very interesting session on digital engagement. And we have taken out how a BU should be successful, how you should do that, which is talking about the focus by Mr. Sandeep Bhattacharya. And Mr. Prashant will be joining with us again in this session there, which we are taking a theme of a new normal at life, work, and business. So this is going to be there. Now, this is basically a kind of a session which is a double barrel gun sessions. What we are going to do this is we are actually open this to all our audience, all the participants, the industry people, or we are all, the people who are going to be there in that. So we are actually inviting you to present a paper, how in this situation, the critical or crisis situation, you please submit any case studies or a kind of paper you can present to us. Now, this paper will be, reviewed by the panelists, and will be a couple of other panelists also likely to join here. So these people will review your paper, and we will be shortlisted. The 3 papers will be making started the presentation. Most probably, if time permits, we'll do on the same 15th, or we will do it on 16th. The 3 presentation will be done, which will be signed by the certificate will be issued to the people. And so this is one we want to see that. So this for your preparation of the case study, how you're going to make a case study, how you may have many point or many things you have achieved in this short time or this kind of critical time. So how you are going to make your case study well. So the next session going to be really a kind of example for you to see how a case study should be there. So he is going to take up the case study, so you can give me a kind of template. You can see, take it how you are going to take up this for your presentation. I invite all of you, and I want to really give an opportunity. If any, in fact, I want you to really dare me to give a good, fantastic papers. So I should be finding difficult to shortlist 3 papers. So that's the kind of challenge you should give me. So I'm going to invite you all guys to present a paper, because very interestingly, we have visitors or the kind of participants across all profiles. From CEO to the product managers, even students, which actually come and do the joining hands with us. So I'm just throwing this opportunity, or I would say this is a kind of forum I want to give it to you. So please take it up this one. And now, any other points are there? If any other question anybody want to ask, you can ask question. Otherwise, I think we will wind up the session now. Is there any question? Maybe if you want, you can actually unmute now. You can actually ask question to Mr. Prashant or to me.
Hi, sir. This is Anirudh here. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, yes, Anirudh.
Yeah, hi. Always a pleasure to hear you, sir. So my question actually put it in a chat box, but I guess that got missed.
No, I read it. I was just reading it. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you spoke about the ecosystem, and you will agree that from an Indian market perspective, we majorly focus a lot on service and product differentiation. Any other cogs you feel that are extremely important to create that ecosystem in an Indian market scenario? It could be pricing, it could be access to medicines and R&D, which could be the actual differential going ahead. Any views on that?
Nice one. I think that's a nice question, Anirudh, and I know the background that you come from, why you asked this question. There's a lot that is going to happen. I think one key thing that I'm going to see going to be a big change lever in the industry is going to be key account management. Okay, the way we, because hospitals is going to be a massive influx of business coming in the coming decade. I mean, I think 10 years from now, if we have to meet again, the number of individual clinics will be far less than what it is today. And the entire population will shift to the hospital management. So when you talk about hospital management, it opens up an entire new channel of healthcare management. One, it's going to be looking at a lot of payers market. So companies will do extremely well if they get into identifying how they can associate with insurance payers. Number two, it's going to get very strongly in terms of what kind of services you want to do. Long time back, Abbott, I do not know if there's anybody from Abbott in this group here, but long time back, Abbott, when they actually started looking at how do they build their critical care business, they did a very smart thing. The whole critical care onco business was to do with the hospital sector. So when they looked at the hospital sector, they started tying up with all the CEOs of the hospitals. And what did they do? They started giving them far better, high quality hospital management profession, trainings by IIMs, trainings by Harvard Medical Colleges. Now, this is something that is unheard of. I mean, an Indian company would really be, I think, cocooned to try and see what kind of literature, campaigns, transactions I can do. And they just changed the lever completely. So what you ask is the ecosystem. And that's why the more you engage with ecosystems, you're going to bring about a big thing. If you tie up with hospitals and set up a wonderful teleconsult system, that's a hospital that's going to give you big business. And this is the role where I see key account managers going to play a very, very immense role in future. I mean, I would look at every company looking at key account management today in India is unfortunately looked at a pricing strategy. It's not a pricing strategy. You are completely belittling that position. It's a strategy that is going to give you very high fetched data that companies and hospitals can use for improved access of medication, for better management of diseases, and for a better healthcare outcome. Companies will tie up with hospitals and do a lot of epidemiology studies. I mean, today, if I have a tie-up with a hospital and start looking at various ways in what kind of infections come to at various points of time and how does management change, they are your research subjects. They are your research tools. So it's going to play a very, very big role, Anirudh, in, I think, in the future that we talk about. So one needs to go beyond the classic pharma marketing. One needs to get into far more engaged customer marketing. So I'm going to change the gear from thinking marketing brands to really creating established success, let's say successful, sustained customer relationships. And that's what is going to be the game changer for all of us.
Yeah, I think great. I think it's a great question and right answer. I just want to add two more points with Anirudh. As Prashant was telling rightly, now there are two examples which I've seen is in the space of key account management. One is core healthcare where I was working. So if you way we are referring today IMS or AVAX data, so that time there is no data actually available for the hospital product. Even today there is no product is available. Okay, so but you know, so understanding the competition was really tough even those days or those time also. But they want to really survive, and there are many companies, local players were there. So how to really move ahead of that? So then, you know, what happened is we put a kind of panel of around 6 major cities. We made a hospital panel and we made it as a hospital panel along with the beds count and beds audit. So which actually we have done, initiated a thing, which actually when it come to that, when I was heading this strategy and market research team there, so we had a team and we went personally, we better set up a team and we were doing that. So that actually we see that not only a research, we just go beyond that to audit as well as understand their concern and really take it up on that. This is one thing which has seen that. The second example is for diapers. For adult diapers, still it is actually a kind of product. You know, we are doing a project with one of the major player in this domain. When we are doing the study on that, you know, we really want to see what are the dynamics happening. You know, then really we really don't have a kind of idea. Again, there is no study or nothing is available what is happening there. So we done a very massive study of covering 1800 chemists across the country, around 16 cities we covered with the 1800 chemists. We really try to find out so many things, like what are the product, what are the competitive product, what are the things, what are the schemes, what are the things that they give. So much of thing kind of we done, and which give you a kind of really understand about the kind of customer in a much deeper way. Okay, so this is a kind of example what we say how we want to see a key account management. Now any other question, can we just put it? Maybe I think there are good number of students are there. Maybe I would like to hear some of the questions from you where people think little different way. Someone of you, some volunteers. Fine. I think if there's
I see a couple of questions. I see a couple of questions that I will take in separately. There are a few questions that have come in from Ranjan. I'm not sure if they are online. Samir, Srivas, and Ranjan. I think very, very valid questions, Ranjan and Samir.
Okay.
Maybe you would like, I do not know if you all are there, but I think it's a question that talks about statistics that will help for future expectations.
Hi,
Ranjan, it's
Hi, Prashant sir. Samir is here.
Hi, Samir.
I'm a student of pharma industry for almost 18 years now. And the idea of asking the question today was what we have seen, and I'm currently heading a business unit. What I'm seeing is, other than, that is what I'm referring to my question again, is that what we are seeing is that as a pharma in the marketing sales, we all have our KPI which is revolving around the overall numbers of the market share and other things. What we have seen, it is not there for the other functions, and you are referring to that point. So I wanted to come on that point, is that what's your point of view that it should, the business or the business outcome should be part of everyone, including the R&Ds or the product development or the packaging or anybody for that matter, even HR. Business outcome should be part of that, their KPIs as well. So I want to understand your point of view on that.
Fully in agreement, Samir. And you know how this goes about. I think the last two organizations that I've been a part of, all the HODs of all these units, whether it's an R&D, it's HR, or it's finance, there has to be a component of the business outcome there, because you know how will you bring in business centricity? I mean, the job of an HR is not only to recruit candidates, do a let's say performance management system or manage training. No, the job is very different. The job of a training manager is also very different. So while they have to be, may not be directly accountable, but they have to have a portion of certain sales component, because anything that they strategize, anything that they do, and that's why I come to that slide of agility, where it's very critical for us to look at any department, what is the connect that you're doing to the business model and the customer. And if you don't have certain, unfortunately, we're a company that, or we're a country that really relies a lot on KPIs and KRAs at the end of the day. It makes a lot of sense to really put it for all the HODs for sure, because it will improve the engagement, it will improve the accountability.
Thank you so much.
Good. Yeah. Thanks, Samir. Thank you, Prashant. Is there any other question we can hear from you guys?
I think people have been very patiently waiting.
I think
people have been very patient.
Hungry, I think. Okay, great. I think it's a good time. I think we actually scheduled generally that session 11 o'clock, but since Mr. Prashant is preoccupied with his regular schedule, we made it. We made it delayed the sessions. Okay. Can you share your view on future structure of? Okay, Prashant, there's one question. Can you share your view on future structure of hierarchy? Is it going to restructured?
Yes, I think we're already seeing it. We're already seeing it. It will get restructured, especially in companies that have been not well planned in expanding. I think they're the ones who are going to be backtracking the first. But companies who've had a well thought, structure and a layout and a thing, I don't think will get affected by, 3 or 6 months of a non-performance, because they've got the sustainability to really pull through. But the smaller companies, we will see not only reps, we will see head office, we will see managers getting either merged, laid off. That will happen, and it will happen because people want to be leaner. I mean, the whole agenda is to be lean and mean in business, and that will be one of the cost cutting measures that will be.
Prashant sir, this is Samir again on the structure part. My only point of view is that what we are seeing is that the hierarchy, the number of layers will be coming down. What's your view on that? Not the overall structure per se, but the layer is what I'm referring to. So,
well, I think it should, Samir. I don't think we should have waited for a COVID scenario for this. I would say that this should have been the nature of, I think, work ethic right in the beginning. I mean, when you have somebody in a role in an organization, if he's not doing that role judiciously well, why have him? I mean, you are actually draining the company's resources. So COVID has just accelerated it. COVID has only got things a little more on the forefront because you have to action things a lot faster. But if you do it as a general process, Samir, you are handling a business unit, and many people who are non-performing or who are sitting on the ranks of the company unnecessarily. So you must certainly.
You got muted, sir.
Yeah, I know. You really need to take this as a normal routine call. Please start evaluating layers and people in the roles as a regular process. So whether it is needed or no, when you do it today, you start getting a bad name for it. You start getting a name for being a company that is very ingenuine, and that's not being very, very honest and authentic in its approach. So, you may blame it on COVID, and you may not blame it on your, lack of decisiveness. So I would rather look at it as a very weak decision making if you're using a COVID scenario to take those calls. So be a strong leader, be a courageous leader, and do it on an ongoing basis. I'm sure your people will look up to you and learn something from it.
I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Prashant. Thanks, Samir. Is there any other question we can take it to the forum? I'm just looking some good question from the student as well.
You're pushing the lunchtime beyond, I guess.
Okay, great. I think thanks for the time, all participants. Given a kind of time in your lunch break, lunchtime as well. Thanks, Prashant, once again for your excellent presentation and excellent session today. I think you made the day well. And as he is told, I think we please join us for the next Saturday. We'll be having a case study presentation. And it was really one of the session which is going to talk about a product which is about to discontinue or about to die. So how he picked the product and made it one of the very high contributing brand for Dr. Reddy's. That is a case study. So please don't miss it. Please join us next Saturday 11 o'clock. So that will be on the usual 11 o'clock time. And also we'll be sending you the announcement on the web meet, which is going to be on 15th August. So we'll be making some minor changes and they will be sending it to you today or maybe tomorrow, that announcement. So please participate in terms of submitting the papers and other thing. Thanks once again to all of you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.